This week on the season 3 opener of Not Sauce for Work, Terry Tam is co-hosting, Eagle is producing. We discuss the spectrum of mental illness in the NFL, we fix college football, and Pittsburgh says farewell to Big Ben. We will get into these topics and much more on this episode of Not Sauce for Work on the Hot Sauce Sports Podcast Network. Welcome everyone you are listening to and perhaps watching Not Sauce Work. I'm your host, Piz Delariz. As mentioned, I am joined by Terry Tam and the Eagle at Master Control. How's it going, Terry?
It's good, back from the holidays, from the most overrated holiday of all time, New Year's Eve. It's great, it's great. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thanks, and I think we did this. I think we did our own, we exchanged pleasantries during the holidays, but Happy New Year, man.
Yeah.
It's the first time I see your face in 2022.
It's true.
And of
course, face full of 2022.
We are unfortunately back to some regulations, which has pushed us back into doing the show from remote. We do have some changes. You might see us from remote more often, but the good news is you're going to be seeing us more often. So that's all in good time. You'll see that unfolding as it happens. I had an intro planned, but we're running short on time. And now this is really going to piss Eagle off because he's not ready for it. It's time for the news. He was ready. Terry, it's the news for as we start 2022.
We didn't even do a shout out to our graphite for the brand new look and feel for the show.
I know it's because we're so pressed, but honestly, graphite.
You couldn't just do 30 seconds to be like, "Hey, shout out to our graphic designer Dave who did all this stuff."
Jesus, I can't last that long. Graphite Duke, honestly, no, it's a great look, of course, as always. New season, new look. And here we are. The new colors are these ones because I don't know for certain what colors they are. I think it's green and black.
It's very green.
It's a lime and black. This is like the original color. This is like our actual Hot Sauce Sports color. I like it.
I thought you were gonna talk for longer. That's why I sipped water.
No, I like this one a little bit better than the one before. The other one's nice too. Like the one we had right before this season 2 was like darker green, but this is more our style, more colorful.
Yeah. I like the bright colors. I always like that we have a semi sort of Miami Vice kind of vibe with the neons. I just like that look. So we have an interesting situation. We had a huge conversation all day long throughout our text chain, and I'm sure every group of friends in their text chain has the similar thing. We all saw Antonio Brown. We won't even show the clip because everyone's seen it by this point. Antonio Brown blows up, leaves the game, pieces out, and then the shitstorm happens. He takes to social media. He drops a track. He blames Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians blames Antonio Brown. From what I can discern, Terry, this is what I think happened, and you tell me your opinion on that in terms of what happened on the actual field.
Because we're not doctors, right? I think we're not doctors.
We're not doctors.
Need to clarify this.
Well, there's also I worked in a field related to mental wellness for a while. But I'm not a psychologist, and I I feel uncomfortable when people say, well, that's clearly mental illness or whatnot. I do think there are aspects of this that, because it's not a standard reaction, there are components of this that perhaps mental illness played a role. I also think, because so far the internet's divided into two camps. People think AB is a piece of shit. Other people saying this is clearly mental illness. He could be someone who is a piece of shit, who is struggling with mental illness. And I think that somewhere in that spectrum is what we're seeing, because this is a guy who kicked a guy in the face on a kick return. This is a guy who faked, vaccine status. This is a person who sexually assaulted a woman, who threw chairs and furniture out of a window recklessly. He's shown disregard for teammates over and over and over again. But again, it's not it's so atypical for this to happen that we've literally never seen a player take off his pads and jersey and leave in the middle of a game before.
I actually thought about this. Is it the first time that that's actually happened where a player's done that?
The closest I can remember is LeBron taking off his Cavs jersey right before he went to Miami. Like before getting to the locker room, had already taken the jersey off, but that was still after the game.
Yeah, and like this is close to like Patrick Waugh.
Yeah, like that's a good comp actually, letting in like the goals and stuff. And so on the sideline, apparently Antonio Brown expressed that he was injured. I think what was happening was this, based on what I've read from both sides. He's not happy with how the game is going, not happy that he's not getting the ball. Says, well, I'm not getting the ball anyway, and I'm not 100%, so I'm not going back in. Unprofessional. Then Coach Bruce Arians says on the spot, well, you're done here, leave. Also unprofessional. So it's a situation that exacerbated, got completely out of control, and here we are. And everyone is talking about that situation. And then under the gun, we see, sorry, not under the gun, but under this foil, we see a story leak out that Calvin Ridley and the Falcons are talking about potentially parting ways and looking for a new start from each other.
Before we start pointing the finger at Bruce Arians and Alex Guerrero, and is that his name, Alex Guerrero, and the doctor, Tom Brady's doctor?
I think, isn't it Dr. Guerrero in like quotations because he's
he's like a personal trainer.
He's a steroid dealer to Tom Brady, who allows him to play into his 40s.
He's a Botox dealer is what he is.
Yeah, that too, definitely.
No, but like we have to understand AB, and you have to look at the things that he's done throughout his career, okay? Remember when he called the police to his house? Like after that whole thing with Oakland happened, and he called the police to his house, and then the police come and he tells them, get the fuck out of my place. Like he's recording himself yelling at the police. The police are like, you called us. Yeah. So you're telling us to leave when you called us here. So we have to understand the mentality of Antonio Brown. He's probably the worst communicator in the history of sports. The guy does not communicate his emotions well. It's clear. No.
And that's the thing is, and you know, one thing we're seeing often is, well, if he's you know struggled with mental health, then why hasn't he talked about it? Why hasn't he gone to see anybody? A, we don't know if he's going to see anybody. B, there are lots of people who are undiagnosed, and it's not their obligation to disclose that information to us. And even if he would have, it's not someone who communicates well. One thing I thought of when this happened, Terry, is I'm a Dolphins fan, right? So when Ricky Williams quit football, basically by smoking a joint the morning of a planned, like the NFL gave him every warning, like, listen, Ricky, we know you smoke, just know that you have a drug test this day. And then like he blew off and he took off to India and, you know, rediscovered himself. Ricky Williams has since talked about how he didn't know how to quit football. It was not in him to play anymore. And he just didn't know how to quit. And he found ways to sabotage himself because all he had known from the age of like 8 years old is play football. This is who I am, this is who I am, this is who I am. And then Antonio Brown, the one thing I will say, the one thing he posted in all the madness that actually made me stop and think about it a little bit was when he said something to the effect of, football is what we do, it's not who we are. And I said, well, that's kind of the thing that Ricky Williams experienced. But the difference is Ricky Williams didn't have this long tenure of being a horrible human being. You know what I mean? Like people genuinely like Ricky Williams. He seems to be someone who's a kind soul and a nice person. And that doesn't seem to be the case for Antonio Brown. He makes for, if this is the case with Antonio Brown, he just makes us a terrible messenger for this, right?
He's an awful messenger. He's an awful communicator. He whines, like he posts like the picture of the screenshot of his conversation with Dr. Guerrero, and he's like, see what I'm dealing with? Dr. Guerrero was like the nicest guy to him. He's like, yeah, no problem. I'll send you back your money. No problem. I hope everything is all well. How are you? Like very cordial. You know what I mean? And he's not like he's like, oh, you know, you already paid me, so I can't give it back to you. He's like, yeah, I'll send you your money back, no problem. And he's like, see what I'm dealing with? What are you dealing with? You're dealing with a very nice person, a very sympathetic person. What do you mean? Unless there's other messages that we haven't seen. And then we look at the Bruce Arians leaked messages, and it's like, okay, Bruce is a little like, okay, forget about your injury, like put your nose down, let's play through it. But if you're not, it's okay. Kind of playing on that line of like we need to win, let's fucking win. But like
Bruce
AB
Arians
has.
again. the other side of that too is Bruce Arians. He's been known to push guys too hard. He fake cut a guy in front of the team when he was with Arizona. Like he's had some issues before as well.
He's
so,
weird. Yeah, he's different.
He's a bit strange, and look. There's a reason he didn't get a full-time head coaching job until his mid-60s, right? Like it's not lack of ability. The guy's an excellent coach. We know that. Yeah. We've known that for years.
Yeah. I'm a fan of Arians. I think that he's one of the most progressive coaches too, and I don't think that he mishandled this at all. I think he was just tired of the show. When you're a coach and you prepared for something for 7 days, and then all of a sudden one guy on a roster of 53 plus the practice roster is trying to fuck that up by just being a baby on the sideline and not communicating his feelings and not telling you. He's like the whiny kid in the corner going, meh, 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 look at me over here. And then he starts waving to the fans like, give me attention. Remember last year when this whole AB thing was happening?
He was on the road, by the way.
He was on the road.
Did he forget what city he was in?
Yeah. And even last year, like every Wednesday, it was every Tuesday or Wednesday was when we would record. All of a sudden, AB sending out a tweet and he's talking about the Raiders and he's talking about the Bills and the Pats and whatever. And it's like he just does things just because he wants attention. He wants people to pity him. He plays the victim when 99% of the time he's wrong. Even if Bruce Arians was an asshole in this situation, there's proof in text messages that AB leaked that he was ready to play. So don't tell me that the team knew about his injury. He was cleared completely. If he wanted a second opinion, he could have gone and got a second opinion. I'm
with you to a degree. I will say that like being clear is like none of us have a situation where we're not feeling well, and your boss says, "Well, our work doctor says you're okay, so you're coming to work." Like it's a strange environment, right? Like
the person benefiting from playing is telling you to play.
Yeah,
I mean, the closest we got is the CDC telling nurses and doctors to go back to work when they test positive, right? I mean, that's the closest example you have.
But meanwhile, another situation where there's sort of like a clear delineator and a player mentioned issues related to mental health. Calvin Ridley left the Falcons this season. They're talking about having sort of a fresh start, both the Falcons and him.
Did he leave? Did he leave officially?
No, it's been leaked. It was they kind of like slid this in the news wire as the whole AB was taking over the news flow today. But it got leaked this morning or last night, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, it makes sense because clearly I would imagine the team wasn't thrilled when he left. You can be as understanding as you want, but you still have goals you want to attain. And Calvin Ridley was part of your plan. And like you were saying, Terry, is like coaches are control freaks and they're used to having all their pieces. And Calvin Ridley's a really big piece. And on the other side, Calvin Ridley, like, does the mental health issues stem from being in a workplace that makes you unhappy, right? So, and similarly, there's not a lot of fields where you graduate and you're being told you're going to go work there, right? So it's a different kind of work experience than most people experience in a lifetime. I'm curious to see how this plays out because again, we don't have a lot of examples of players leaving in their prime to come back after suffering an issue relating to their mental health and mental well-being.
I think that Calvin really he rose his stock so high last year that any team would take him no matter what, like with no questions asked. He can go on any team you want. So I think it's smart for him to say, listen, I'm done with Atlanta. Atlanta's obviously a sinking ship. They're obviously going to have to rebuild to a certain extent. Like Matt Ryan, obviously he's not the answer anymore, and they haven't drafted his replacement.
You say Matt Ryan's not the answer, but at the same time, how good is he that team is not atrocious? That team is
the fact that they have 7 wins? Yeah, like 7 wins, bro?
At one point this season, like maybe 2 weeks ago, I was like, well, Atlanta has like 1 win, right? And I was like, you got 5 wins already? How did this happen? Like it's not what he was for sure, but definitely like, they're in a similar situation to what you see with teams where Joe Montana at the end of his career, San Francisco said, well, it's time to move on. And he still has something left in the tank, just not for us. And I think Atlanta's going to do the same. I think they're going to clean house completely as well.
Yeah, I think they should. I think a rebuild is in order over there.
Yeah, I'm curious. Next time I go down to see a game there, which is probably going to be this year, I wonder who I'll be seeing because I've only ever seen Matt Ryan throw for Atlanta every time I've gone to see them live.
That whole division is like just bad.
It's boring. It's not even enjoyable football.
Yeah, it's
Like
like
once
missionary
McCaffrey's
position.
down, nothing's interesting.
Yeah, it's like they're they schedule their sex as an old couple. They're an old couple that schedules their sex.
Missionary only.
Missionary only. Maybe throw in a doggy style if you're feeling if you've had a couple too many Coors Light banquets. You know what I mean?
Ooh, yeah, gold can. The gold can and a couple of blue pills.
Yeah. Can't go wrong.
So for college football, the semifinals sucked. Georgia walked all over Michigan. Alabama destroyed Cincinnati. And I was thinking, they keep wanting to expand the playoffs, and I was like, but why? Like,
listen, if you're going to expand the playoff,
Cincinnati's get destroyed.
No, but I think if you expand the playoff, I think that at least what happens is that it creates a different environment. When you're going in, you're one in, one out kind of thing. But let me get back to it. If you expand the playoff, you get more teams in, you get more money involved. Now, especially with the NIL, they're going to have to start paying these players a little bit. So when you expand the playoff, you create something where the thing is that the playoff isn't attainable for 95% of the schools. Only 5% of the schools can actually go to this playoff. So they don't all care about it. If you expand it and you open it up to regions and stuff like that, then people would put more money into recruiting. You know what I mean? They're going to have something to play for. Like Florida Atlantic isn't putting millions of dollars into recruiting because they know they can't compete with Florida State or Miami or Florida. You know what I mean? Like that's the way I see it.
You say Miami. This is the first time they've ever put money into recruiting. They just paid Mario Cristobal $8 million a year.
Just to go get whoever they wanted.
They're a team that did it on the cheap. Like they're famous because of the championships, but they caught lightning in a bottle twice. You know what I mean? It's they hired Jimmy Johnson.
You go after hungry, poor kids that want to make money and want to play football the rest of their life. You go after them. You recruit them. You're going to get the best athletes.
Art Schnellenberger, who passed away this year, was the first college football coach to recruit in South Florida, which seems like insanity because that's where most football players come from today, right?
Yeah, especially there's that area that Antonio Brown comes from. It has like the highest first round pick per capita in the country. Like there's more first rounders in this small area of Dade County, Miami-Dade County, than there is in any other region in the country, which is bananas to me. Like I think Willis McGahee's in there. There's a lot of guys in there.
Yeah, there's a ton. Ray Lewis is from around there as well.
Florida's the best state for football. Like people talk about Texas, Florida's number one to me.
Well, I mean, it's Florida, it's Texas, it's Georgia. There's 3 or 4 states where like 90% of pro football players come from.
Yeah.
But so I guess the point of expanding the playoffs is like I'm at a point now, Terry. I don't know about you, but I don't care about the other bowl games. They don't mean anything, and at least it would give them some inherent value. Kurt Herbstreit talked about players not playing in these bowl games and instead protecting themselves for the NFL draft, and he kind of got some heat for it. I kind of know what he was saying, but I have very defined feelings about this. We'll listen to the clip and we'll react to it after, if it ever plays.
Classic.
Eagle, pay the internet.
Eagle, as soon as Kirk Herbstreit started talking, started off because the other guy starts talking, and that's not what we're trying to talk about.
Yeah, it's just the first part of it.
What the fuck is going on, man?
I don't know.
You want me to just explain what he said?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, let's drop the video. Let's just get the next video, next thing loaded. He said something to the effect of, and Terry, I know you've heard it. He said something to the effect of, look, players just don't love to play the way we used to. They're protecting themselves, but like they say these bowl games don't count, but like they didn't used to count when we played either, but we just wanted to play. And so I will say that players do love to play. I don't think that's changed. I think that they've recognized that this has become a giant economy, and
it's become a business.
Why would they sacrifice potential millions of dollars and drop in the draft for a game that ostensibly doesn't mean anything to their careers?
I got
this is the problem that we're going to hit with the whole NIL thing is that it's regardless, like we're going to take away the entire education system from this whole student athlete thing.
Oh, but it's been gone. But Terry, that's been gone for years.
It's been gone for a long time.
It's just out in the open.
There's most kids on each. Like the thing is that
now at least kids are getting paid for it.
the thing is on each team is that you have like 10 players who don't need that education. You know what I mean? But the rest of those guys, they need that education. So it's kind of gonna create.
Go ahead. Sorry, it's just cutting on my end, so I don't know when you're.
Yeah, I know it's weird. It's gonna create this whole. It's gonna create a completely different. How can I say this? It's gonna create a completely different world. Like it's not gonna be student athletes anymore. It's gonna be players getting paid. And I think you posted it, but it's like Gene Chiswick's his comments too. He's not wrong. I see him as a very like constipated human, but he's not wrong that it could create. It could create the worst human of all time.
Well, first of all,
money has never made people better.
They're not. First of all, they're not his thoughts. They're his words of chisdom, as he hashtags words of chisdom at the end of his thoughts. Eagle, can you bring it up? I'll read it and I'll tell you why I think he's wrong. And it's just because he's completely short-sighted. I can't read it. Eagle's too small on my screen. Can you read it for me?
It says, every scholarship offensive lineman at UT will get $50,000 a year with new NIL deal, not to mention a $200,000 education. Americans struggle finding $50,000 jobs to feed their children. Next, it's $100,000 players with no end in sight. Flawed system with 4 exclamation marks. Most cash, dollar symbols, wins, exclamation mark, hashtag words of chisdom.
That's the problem that we might fall into. And that's where I agree is that the teams with the most money are going to end up getting the best recruits, okay? But then we look at the example.
The case.
But why not just cap the team budget?
Not necessarily, because it's not socially acceptable until now. Like it's socially acceptable now to give a 5-star recruit $150,000 a year at 18 years old. You know what I mean? Like it's acceptable now. And that's
Terry, I think the difference is if you're a school that's going to spend a ton of money on recruiting, you're basically giving them an NFL contract in a lot of ways, depending what school you are, right? So what's the difference in terms of giving them a wage while they're actually earning you income?
Then don't make them go to class then.
Oh, I agree with that.
Because at that point,
I think you should pay for their education. I think you should pay for their education, but they should take it whenever they want. Like if they want to come back to school after their NFL careers in 10 years, you should still pay for their education because they made you millions of dollars. And my problem with Gene Chiswick is he was paid $2.4 million to not coach. That was his buyout, was $2.4 million. And he says, well, people struggle to find $50,000 a year to feed their families. Bro, how can you say that after you got paid $2.4 million to stay home?
Not only to stay home, but you got paid millions of dollars to coach those kids that you feel don't deserve the money when they made the career that you created. If it wasn't for those kids getting paid pennies, you wouldn't have never been able to make those millions.
I think I agree with that. And all of the bulk of those millions came from the fact that you didn't have to pay the labor, that they did the work and you profited from it completely, as did everyone else in the system. I'm with players making money for that reason, because they generate income. There's not another place in the world where the workers generate income and then don't earn a salary. Every other time, that's always been called slavery. I don't mean to conflate the two, but there's not another economic system that exists where this is possible. The other thing, the way I see it, Terry, is I think we need to just abandon let's stop pretending this is about regional rivalries and all that. You make, instead of the SEC, you take the top 16 programs, that's AAA ball. The next 30 programs are AA ball and then single A, and your best players go to AAA, your second best players go to AA, your third best players go to A, and then you have Division II and whatever else. And just make it a business. Just do what they do in Europe with soccer. Kids get recruited to play. They get paid to play. They can make money off their names. They can do whatever they want. And the best ones make the pros. The ones who don't can then later go to college and make the best of their opportunity.
I don't know. I see it as work. There's going to be really big growing pains. The fact that kids,
it's going to be disaster.
18-year-old kids are going to be making 6-figure salaries by themselves. Their parents aren't there. Free for all. There's going to be growing pains this year, and it's going to be ugly for a few people, I think.
It's going to take some time to figure out how it all works.
Yeah.
But, in the end, Terry, 21-year-old kids are getting signed to the NFL and making millions of dollars and being expected to go to too, right?
Yeah.
Just don't go to the Raiders.
That's what I was telling my girlfriend about Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons
couldn't have agents, couldn't have financial advisors. They actually have the money now to hire the people to help them with this. And of course, we're going to see them taken advantage of in some cases, and hopefully that changes through time. But here's the thing. I was watching a bowl game. I couldn't even tell you what bowl game it was, and they kept cutting to Mike Golic Jr. It was brought to you by Duke's Mayonnaise. It was the Duke's Mayonnaise whatever bowl, and he just kept doing essentially a 3-hour ad for mayonnaise because that's what college football's become. It's a 3-hour ad for the sponsor. And I like, again, just stripping away the veil. Stop pretending it's about anything else. It's about selling Duke's mayonnaise. Eagle, bring up the clip.
It plays.
You came up with ideas, unconventional foods that work with mayonnaise. We're starting with what?
Cream-filled cookies here.
You first.
Take a dip. It's a really interesting blend of flavors. Thumbs up for me. Oh, Anish. We're going to need someone up here to call this next drive. He's not doing well. I've seen that face.
What the fuck is wrong with this guy?
Did they not consider doing a mayo and egg? I mean, it's already been documented. It's clearly the best way to eat mayonnaise.
There was like 40 of them. Eagle, every time they cut up to the booth, he was eating something with mayonnaise. Like he just turned he turned his own broadcast into an infomercial. And again,
I love to get sponsored by Dukes.
It's the most obvious thing. Like this is what it is. Let's stop pretending it's something else. And I personally loved it. I was tuning in. I couldn't even tell you what the score in the game was, Terry. I was only paying attention when he was eating something with mayonnaise.
My buddy played in the Meineke Car Care Bowl. Like, what do you think that's about?
Well, car care is self-care.
Sure. Why not?
Big Ben played his final game in Pittsburgh. It was actually a little sad to watch him play. To take 45 attempts to throw 150 yards. I was so bored. I only watched it because it was last game, and I was falling asleep, man. He used to be one of the most exciting players to watch in the NFL, and his body is just broken.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough to watch because I was like, okay, this is going to be a good game. And he played decently well, but you can tell that that's his ceiling now. You know, like he's not going to be able to throw for 300 anymore. He doesn't have the receiving core like Chase Claypool and Washington and freaking and
Deontay
Juju.
Awesome.
What?
Deontay Johnson's a really good receiver.
He is, but like he's not Antonio Brown. He's not Heinz Ward. He's not like the beast receivers that they used to have. You know what I mean? And they're good receivers. I like Chase Claypool too. I think he's a good 2 or 3.
Making him look worse because he can't throw the ball downfield.
And Chase Claypool, like I know he's had his moments, but if you look at a lot of the plays, a lot of his targets, they're behind him. They're a little bit too far, a little to his feet. Like he has to make crazy plays.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he has to make crazy plays. And Big Ben, I mean, I don't think Big Ben wants to see himself play like this, and I think that's why he's flirting with the idea of retirement so he can see how he feels about it. But I don't think that he's going to be back ever again. I think he's done after this year.
For me, the hardest part about watching that game was seeing Baker Mayfield just get abused by the defensive line of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he got sacked 10 times and like 0 chances on some plays. Like straight up, like offensive linemen just missed their blocks and he's on the floor within 2 seconds.
TJ Watt was in his kitchen, man. He was just there. He just existed in Baker's head. And Baker's the type of guy where I think that the only time he doesn't get flustered is during the game, and he got flustered during that game. Like we know Baker as in the media he gets annoyed and stuff like that, but in the game he's got like big balls and tough skin. And this is the first time I saw
9 times in a game though. I mean that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's rough. And the thing is, like with the way Baker's been getting hit, I kind of see he's gonna age like Ben Roethlisberger. Like was he looking into his future, seeing the walking body cast that is Ben Roethlisberger, and being like,
yeah,
wait. That's gonna be me. I'm gonna have liquid ass bones when I'm Ben's age. You know,
Baker.
It looks terrible.
The irony that the Browns sacked Justin Fields this year for 9 sacks in their game. So just karma's a bitch, I guess? ?
Yeah, I guess so. Baker he's not gonna last as long as Ben. He gets hit too hard.
Yeah, unless they drastically change what they do with him.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's tough. It's tough to watch. Aaron Rodgers, Eagle, your beloved Aaron Rodgers had a comment about a journalist who took a stand about the vaccine status. Of course, this journalist is in Chicago, probably hates Aaron Rodgers anyway, and said that he shouldn't be MVP. And this was Aaron Rodgers' response.
Last week about what it would mean to win your 4th MVP. What do you think of one of the 50 voters coming out and saying yesterday, quote, I don't think you can be the biggest jerk in the league and punish your team and your organization and your fan base the way he did and be the MVP. I think he's a bad guy, and I don't think a bad guy can be the MVP at the same time.
I think he's a bum. I think he's an absolute bum. You didn't know me. I don't know who he is. No one knew who he was probably until yesterday's comments. But I mean, and I listened to the comments, but to say he had his mind made up in the summertime, in the off season, that, I had zero chance of winning MVP, in my opinion, should exclude, future votes. His problem isn't with me being a bad guy or the biggest jerk in the league. Because he didn't know me. He didn't know me. He doesn't know anything about me. I mean, I've never met him. I've never had lunch with him. I've never had an interview with him. His problem is I'm not vaccinated. So if he wants to go on a crusade and collude and come up with an extra letter to put on the award just for this season and make it the most valuable vaccinated player, then he should do that. But he's a bum, and I'm not going to waste any time worrying about that stuff. He has no idea who I am. He's never
This is why Aaron Rodgers is
it's
right.
unfortunate that those
I mean, he's right about this.
About everything.
No one's right about everything.
Not
There's not a
everything.
single person who's right about everything.
Not everything, but he's right that this guy makes.
He lied. He wasn't right when he didn't follow protocols. He's right now because who gives a shit? Like, hey, here's the thing: MVPs only really matter to the players. Here's my proof. Eagle, who was the MVP last season?
Aaron Rodgers.
Maybe. I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't care.
No, it was, yeah. So the thing is, Aaron Rodgers is that
I'm the wrong person to ask because I would obviously know the answer to that.
Okay, who was the MVP 2 years ago?
Tom Brady, I think.
Probably Mahomes.
Oh, it was Mahomes.
Was it Lamar? Was it Lamar Jackson or Mahomes?
I don't know. I never know who the MVP.
I think it was Mahomes. But anyway, yeah, it was Mahomes because then he won the Super Bowl.
And Lamar Jackson was the year before that. I weirdly remember Lamar Jackson's MVP year.
Anyway, so Aaron Rodgers, this guy makes
Lamar
this decision.
Jackson was 2019 actually, and 2018 was Mahomes.
There we go.
And 2017 was Brady and Ryan. How? No, it's Brady. Never mind.
Okay. Yeah, Brady was before that. Brady was the year that they lost. The year after the Pats lost to the Eagles.
And the year that they won the Super Bowl against the Falcons.
Yeah, exactly. So Aaron Rodgers, he's not wrong. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, the guy makes his decision. It only matters to the players, and you're right. And this can be a couple $1 million in negotiation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the fact that there's a guy out there who's biasly making his decision should not have a vote. And if he has a vote next year, then the problem is ridiculous. Like the problem hasn't been solved, and they need to solve it.
It's the equivalent to me of like people keeping Barry Bonds off the ballot, but you're okay with Ty Cobb, who we think murdered people, is in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Like it's so arbitrary. Like you either reward the play on the field or you make it about the best people in the league. Like it can't be both things. It's most valuable player. It's not person who I most agree with their morals. It's MVP.
And we had this discussion with Alex the intern, and Aaron Rodgers is probably going to win the MVP, either him or Jonathan Taylor. You can't look at Aaron Rodgers this year and say he's not the MVP, no matter if he's vaccinated or not. He's the best player that plays for the NFL this year, and the fact that guy is going to be an asshole and not vote for him based on something that happened before the season started, he should lose his vote completely.
One thing that will kind of side with Rodgers here is that he actually missed a game, right? So everyone's saying like, oh, his stats aren't as good as some of the other people, even though they actually are. He actually didn't play a game because he had to sit out because of the protocol, which actually, in a way, hurts his chances of winning it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I say Derrick Henry should get consideration just because he's still 6th in rushing. The guy hasn't played since like before Canadian Thanksgiving. And
Derrick Henry. Okay, yeah.
At one point, this season, he was 1st in yards and second. His yards per contact was 2nd yards in the league. Second total yards was his yards after contact, that's insanity.
No, he's a freak. There's nobody ever that's been like him.
We got one. I guess we'll go right into rapid fire because we're running out of time. It just sucks that I want to make fun of Joe Judge.
Do it.
We'll find you know what, Terry? I'll write an article. Because I want to make fun of Joe Judge.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to start writing again just so I can make fun of Joe Judge. I'll do that tomorrow.
Go for it.
All right,
Let's go to
before
rapid
we get into rapid fire, do you want to tell us about who currently sponsors our rapid fire segment?
Yeah, Rapid Fire is always brought to you, as usual, brought to you by Hot Streak Fantasy. Hot Streak Fantasy. Visit Hot Streak Fantasy on iOS. Use the promo code Hot Sauce. They'll match your initial deposit as a bonus. It's the best in-play fantasy app on the market. You put $1,000, they'll give you $1,000. That's basically how it works. You go in, you make quick bets in the middle of the game. You can even make bets. You can make future bets for the game. You can say Steph Curry's going to get over three three-pointers. You can add that up with Joel Embiid getting 5 blocks. You can add that all together to win money. Hot Streak Fantasy. Use the promo code Hot Sauce, and they'll match your initial deposit as a bonus. It's free money. You support them. They support us. Hot Streak Fantasy.
All right, we're going to start with our first rapid fire piece. I'm doing them out of order. If you're following, she's all that. The Montreal Canadiens have hired Chantal Machabee as the new vice president of communications after, I think, a 25-year career at Réseau des Sports, one of the French Canadian broadcasters for the Canadiens as well as sports here in Quebec. Thoughts?
Congrats on Chantal. I mean, she's been around for like ever.
Yeah.
She's ancient. Like, that's how long she's been around for. And she's ancient, but somehow she's still so young. And I'm happy. Like,
Yeah.
I figured,
She
like,
must
if
have
you
started when
ask
she
me,
was like 16 as like an intern at RDS.
yeah, it's like, if you ask me how old is Chantal Machabee, I'd be like 107 probably, because I feel like she's been around forever.
We've known her since like we were kids, but she's like our age. Like,
Yeah.
known her since we were kids, and she was a kid clearly.
She was kid. Yeah, she was 12 when we were
You know?
12. And she's the what is it? The VP of communications.
Yeah,
Communications.
exactly, yeah.
So it's good for her. It's honestly, it's a perfect job for her. They were looking to get a woman into the front office. It's fantastic. I love it.
And we said the only way that a woman will ever become a GM is to have women in the front office doing other jobs. This is a great example. Hockey's been behind the 8 ball when it comes to inclusion. Super happy to see it, and super happy that it's in our city, that our team, that Montreal Canadiens were the team to do it. It's cool to see.
Also, it's not a token pick. She's extremely qualified, right?
Well, that's
the part
That's
that
the thing, is nobody's second guessing this at all.
But that's the thing, is like it only works if you hire people who are the best for the job, and it's not a token, and that's the case for her.
All right. Speaking of token dish, and one, LeBron James had a moment go viral after making a bucket, if I could say words.
Throw it up with that left, LeBron. That's power. That's strength. Absorb the contact.
I'm a motherfucking problem, bitch.
So that's
Throw it up with that left, LeBron.
listen, it's not. I'm not going to say that he stole it from this fighter, but Kamaru Usman has been saying this for a long time.
He's
LeBron
also
James any credit for this.
he's also friends with a lot of USC fighters, so it might have been like as a tribute.
Could be.
I think
I hope so.
but like that's the kind of that LeBron gets criticized a lot, and you and I, Terry, are both fans. I think that's the LeBron we all fell in love with, right? Like the one who's expressive on the court, who is having a good time. The problem is, they won that game by like 4 points against the Sacramento Kings. The Lakers are no good. I'm so sorry, LeBron. I want you to win another championship, but man, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
the Lakers, such a bad team.
I didn't watch that game, but when I saw the highlight, I'm like, oh, who are they playing against? I thought the Warriors, the Heat, like a good team.
The Kings.
Kings. Nobody.
I was watching that game live. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I'm watching Lakers Kings. It's because of Hot Streak.
I love it.
Hot
Streak makes me do stupid things.
The big hurts. A leak has surfaced that the Washington football team will be known as the Admirals, and this has basically come along with an announcement that they're going to unveil the official name and likely look and logo and the whole stuff on February 2nd. A lot of people are saying, though, this is currently being brought up, leaked, etc., to distract from the fact that the field started to collapse and almost hurt Jalen Hurts. This incident, as we can watch.
So dangerous. I love how they all get up, take selfies. You know what I mean?
I feel like the cameraman, though.
Yeah.
There's a cameraman directly under, and no one's talking about him.
Yeah, he's dead. The camera guy died.
Also, what's not shown in this video is the fence was repaired with tie wraps.
Yeah.
Only
Well,
thing
they
that
can
works.
use tie wraps to repair anything, as far as I'm concerned.
If you put enough tie wraps, you can hold anything in place.
Tie wraps are like the 21st century duct tape.
Yeah, pretty much.
So The one thing I will say is Washington has to have the worst PR team. When they were initially looking to announce the name, they didn't buy the domains, and other people bought them up. That's why they were still the football team for an extra year. They announced stuff at the same time as the investigation was going on. It's like all of their moves are the most obvious thing. It's like, well, we almost killed the quarterback. Let's pick a name.
Not just killed a quarterback in a rival division who just smoked your team.
Yeah.
Okay, can I intro the last rapid fire?
Let's do it.
So if you're gonna be dumb and you're gonna fly to Mexico with a bunch of people and hide your disease that we've shut down the entire world for, basically, by putting Vaseline in your nose. If you're gonna go to those lengths to do that, then you shouldn't be allowed to have rights. So the rights should be something like living. So you shouldn't be alive. If you're gonna be an idiot.
I have so many things going on. First, why couldn't you say this after Eagle said the topic? Secondly, why are you advocating for death? Thirdly, Eagle, read the topic.
All right. So, just another tequila sunwing. Montreal passengers and Quebec Instagram, basically, or socialites, if you want to call it that, face potential jail time, flight bans, and thousands of fines after partying on their flight to Mexico, violating several pandemic measures, including flight regulations, which have nothing to do with the pandemic itself. And we get to watch them do so.
I love how there was a couple girls that went online and like, oh yeah, we weren't there, we were sleeping, yada yada yada, and then pictures bang 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 leaked of them like partying, getting hammered. I think that was one of them. There's even one girl, like they have like a Discord group chat that was leaked, and how they're saying how they're going to scam the system by putting Vaseline in their nose when they get tested for COVID. Like, look at all these idiots. I don't mind that they took a private plane and they went to Mexico as friends. I don't give a shit about that. It doesn't bother me. Do whatever you want as long as you're within the guidelines that we set. At the end of the day, if you're going to go as far as to fake the fact that you don't have COVID and risk other people that might not be able to defend themselves against the virus because you're a fucking moron, then you're a fucking moron, and you should lose every single follower that you've gained in the last year.
A close friend of ours, my wife and I, is a doctor in Mexico, and like they don't have the same kind of supplies we have here, and the fact that you could be risking other people where, other countries don't have the same access to healthcare that we have here. Like literally, we've sent her masks. She's a doctor. We've sent her masks that we've bought because not all the doctors have access to masks throughout the country. The other part of this though, Terry, is when I saw this plane, I saw myself totally as being the guy who's like, yeah, sure, I'll come along, not knowing what was going on, take some CBD, get on the flight, and then as I'm trying to fall asleep, these assholes don't shut the fuck up for the entire ride. I'd lose my mind. I need to fall asleep before the plane takes off. That's my goal every flight.
They're fucking idiots.
They ruined everything.
No, I'm a reader.
I'm gonna take 30 seconds here, Pease. You do have some experience with the transportation industry.
Yeah.
If you're the pilot, if you're the flight attendants, aren't you like telling them to not to do this shit, even if it's a private charter flight, and if they don't listen to you, you ground it and call the marshals? Like, yes, obviously these kids are idiots, but the flight themselves bear responsibility for not enforcing regulation.
So there's no marshals for a couple reasons. One, it's a flight leaving from Canada. Secondly, it's a private plane. Pilots aren't supposed to...
If they don't feel safe, they can ground the plane. They can find the
You're correct. After 9/11, pilots were asked to never leave the cockpit during a flight. So that's why they didn't come out to... But you're right. I'm surprised the flight got to Cancun.
There must be some measures that they're allowed to come out because, like... It's ridiculous what they're told not that plane. They're jumping up. Have you ever seen the last episode of Seinfeld?
Right?
What?
Just because of the risk of hijacking, right? Like, because if you come out and you die, like we saw in the flight that was crash landed by the people on the plane during 9/11. Once the pilot dies, there's nobody who can land the plane, right? So that's why they're not supposed to.
If Seinfeld has taught us anything, it's that you shouldn't jump on a plane.
That's true, for other reasons other than Seinfeld. But I'm glad that my years of service in the regulatory body in the airline industry is equivalent of an episode of Seinfeld. So that's gonna
end their show.
1 for 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Had I known I could just watch more Seinfeld, I would have done that. Terry, thank you for everything. Eagle, thanks for putting on a great show today. I know it's an extra struggle when we have a new graphics package and the internet's
And
not
remote.
helping you out.
And the internet.
And we're all remote. But thank you for everything you've done. We're going to try and get back to studio to do a more regular show for you guys. But of course, for those who are local listeners and watchers, you know that we're undergoing these measures. And for those who aren't, we got measures in place. So we're dealing with that as we can. But thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for letting me be myself.
You've been listening to Hot Sauce Sports.